We are going to cover proportions, ratios, and percentages today in this little video. Okay, so a ratio is essentially a fraction. All right, but instead of writing it with a numerator and a denominator, like so, we use a colon instead. Okay. It's basically the same thing. It's saying how many to another, and it can be used as a fraction if you want it to. All right. So let's say we were doing something like, I don't know, examples. All right, so we have 10 squares. All right, that looks more like a rectangle. So 10 rectangles and 12 triangles and 5 circles. And I want to know squares to total shapes. Okay, so rectangles to, and this one I drew a square, right? Rectangle to shapes. So our total shapes, if we add these up, is 27. So rectangles to shapes would be 10 out of 27. If they wanted to know, say, rectangles to triangles, okay, so rectangles to triangles, it would be 10 to 12. Okay. 10 to 12, or we can reduce that to 5 to 6, just like you would reduce a fraction. If we wanted to know, rectangles to circles, okay, it'd be 10 to 5. Here, the difference is there is no improper ratio. It's just what are they asking to what. So 10 to 5 is a 2 to 1 advantage. Okay. So that's essentially what a ratio is. Well, what we could set up, or what we want to know, and what the reviews will ask you is, well, what if I want to compare ratios? What if I had a ratio? Okay, you could do the same thing with fractions. I'll show you. Let's say we had a ratio of 3 to 4. And I wanted to know, how does that compare to 9 to what? Okay. So 3 to 4 is the same as saying 9 to what? And the way you work this out is very simple. What times 3 gives you 9? So 3 times 3 gives me 9. Multiply this number by that same value. So 4 times 3 is 12. And we get 9 to 12 is the same as 3 to 4. Okay, if we had it as a fraction, 3/4 is equal to 9 over x. How we set this up is we cross multiply. Okay, 3 times x is 3x, and I know I'm throwing variables in there, and you're going to freak out because it's algebra, but it's okay, it's simple algebra. 9 times 4 is 36. Divide each side by 3, and therefore x equals 12. You don't want to use algebra, you don't want to see the letters. What times this number gives me 9, then multiply that number by the same thing. We'll do another one. 5 to 25 is the same as 1 to what? Well, what divided by 5 gives me 1? 5 divided by 5 gives me 1, so 25 divided by 5 gives me 5. You could also set it up if you want to, like a fraction. 1 over, I don't know the number. Cross multiply, 5x equals 25, and x equals 5. Okay, so that's essentially a ratio. All right. And this, okay, set up this way is known as a proportion. So when you set them up like this, they're known as proportions. This is an individual ratio. An individual ratio set equal to each other is proportion. So what we say is 5/25 is proportional to 1 over 5. Okay, or 5 to 25 is proportional to 1 to 25. So that's known as proportions. Again, this is going to be a really short video because it's really a review of fractions and decimals. So let's say we had Let's talk about percentages. We have a decimal, and we want to know what percent it is. So let's say we have 0.11 as a decimal, 11/100ths. To find a percentage, you take a decimal and multiply it by 100, and that is your percentage, so 11%. The formula for percentage is part divided by the whole, and I'll talk about these, times 100 gives you the percentage. Or you usually see a P over W times 100 equals the percent. So remember, your percentage is really a decimal times 100. The part is, how many of the certain thing you're looking for. This is the part, as I have up there. And the whole is the total. Okay. So let's say I have, whatever. There's 40 students. We'll tie everything together here. There's 40 students. All right. 25 are female. 15 are male. I want to know, let's do ratio. Okay. Of female to male. Okay. I want to know the percentage of male to students. Okay. So let's take a look at these. So we'll erase this so we have a little bit more room. All right. So the ratio of female to male. There's 25 females to 15 males. What if I want to reduce it? Well, 5 goes in, so 5 thirds, and there's a proportion set up, 5 to 3. Okay, how did I get that? Well, 5 goes into 25 5 times. 5 goes into 15 3 times. So I'm really just reducing, just like we reduced in our fractions, but making it a better ratio. So 5 to 3. Okay, is our ratio. Now, what about the percentage of males to students? Okay, so remember, part over whole times 100. Well, the part, which would be the male, is 15. The whole is 40. Take 15 over 40 times 100. Okay. And we know how to do this. All right, we turn this into a decimal by going 40 into 15. 40 doesn't go into 15. 40 goes into 150 3 times for 120. 30 left over. Bring down a 0. 40 goes into 300, 7 times. 7 times 4. 40 is 280. With 20 left over. Bring down another 0. 40 goes into 200. 5 times? 5 times 40 is 200. Okay, so we know that as a decimal, we are 0.375. And then multiply it by 100 to get the percentage. P over W times 100. 37.5% male. Okay. If I wanted to know the percentage of male to female, I would do 15 over 25. Okay. Now, with this percentage formula, we could do a bunch of things. What if I said, all right, I've got 100 students total, and 36 are female. What is the percentage? Okay, we could do 36 divided by 100. And we find out it's 36%, because it'll be 36 divided by 100 times 100. And we find out it's 36%. That one's an easy one because we made it 100 students. But what if it didn't say that? What if it said 100 students, or let's change the students and let's say 50 students, and now it says, instead of saying 36 female, it says 36% is female. Okay, so we go to our formula. P over W times 100 equals our percent, and we fill in what we know. Well, we know our percentage is 36%. I know what the whole is, because this is the entire total students. So I know what W is. Now we're going to do a little algebra here. So W is 50. I know there's a times 100 here. I don't know what the part is female students. Call it a variable. I'm going to call it X. Okay, now to solve this, divide each side by 100. So that cancels out. Divide by 100. So I'm left with X over 50 equals 36 over 100. Now you could do this two ways. You could do it the long way, or you could do cross multiplying. You could figure out how this fraction equals one another. The answer is, if you do the cross multiplying, or you just look at it and say, well, how did I get 50? Divide by 2, divide by 2. The answer is 18 students are female. So that's a way to find your percentage, or sorry, find your part. Okay. If you're given a percentage and the whole, or the total. Let's try another one, but this time let's find the whole. So what if they tell you 32 students are male, which makes up 38% of the total. How many total students are there? Well, we go back to P over W times 100 equals percent. Okay, write that out. Put 38 over here. You know the percentage. We know times 100 stays. Okay, and then we know the part. We don't know the total number of students. We don't know W. So divide each side by 100. Divide each side by 100. We're left with 32W equals 38 over 100. Like so. Now we cross multiply. And I'm going to have 38. This one doesn't work out as easy as the other one. 3200. Okay, so cross multiply. And let's see here. I've got, if my calculator will work, let me pull it up here on the computer. 3200 divided by 38. Alright. 38. And we end up with the answer being, roughly 84 students. 84 total students. It ends up being 84.21, but you can't have 0.21 of a student. So we end up with 84 students. All right. Okay, so that's how you basically find percentages. Now I posted the homework, and I posted a review session, a review videos, I should say, from Khan Academy on these topics. There's some short ones and there's a little bit longer one, so check it out. And as always, if you need me, email me or hit up the discussion board.